The Australian coastline is one of those coastlines that is incredibly full of information. Now, I've got these pins labeled for us to check out, and we can then better understand the erosion of Australia. But there's also many other coastlines that are very informative, such as Africa, this part of Africa here in particular, and both sides of South America, this part here and this inside part here, are both really good spots for understanding the erosion of Earth. But in this video here, I'm going to look at Australia. And so let's start right about here. So I have these labeled as Mont because that's short for the Monterey Canyon in California. And you see how there's a central river and then two straight edges at angles from this river here. That's exactly what we see as the Monterey Bay. But it doesn't just have, a river in the center of this symmetry, but it also has a marine canyon that makes the Grand Canyon look small. So not only was this eroded larger than the Grand Canyon, as far as this particular spot here, but it was also all done underwater, which indicates debris flows. And then now we get to the mud flow, where it's much smaller, but also has more detail. For example, if you go to this spot here, you can actually see the terraces from the mud flow, right? So you can't have fresh water doing this because it has to be something not just a little bit more dense than the ocean water, but a lot more dense than the ocean water, and that's a mud flow. Okay, so that just gives us a large level of catastrophe when we understand this marine canyon here. Okay, but back to Australia's coastline. This also is another example of something that looks like that, where we have this really nice straight line here and a really nice straight, slightly curved line here, and then kind of straight channels on either side. And this one's actually asymmetrical, and this river channel is offset, but nonetheless you get a good idea of that. Now we're just going to move up the coastline from here. We actually see another one here. Channel came through here. I labeled this spot because this land is, clearly cut off from the land map or from the mainland, from a river channels, right? Let's go here. Really nice shallow cataract formations, and we get a nice expansion bar on this one, and we kind of have step ledges, right? And we'll see more of that. So we're just gathering information here, and we also see, channels going offshore. A nice channel in between this landmass, right? This is kind of like the Channel Islands in California. And then you kind of also get this double, scarp edge, escarpment edge, as they call it. Okay, we're going up the coast. This apparently is also like Monterey. Okay, this is the feature here. You've got the river going through here, and then you've got, two sides. Here you kind of have a nice little edge there, which reminds me of this spot over here, or over here, that's got a really nice, wide, flat little channel, and this being the scarp edge of that channel. And then also, I'm kind of jumping around here, but I just want to let you guys see the big picture so you can understand the rest of the coastline better. These are also channels that came offshore. This is a really nice expansion bar. Okay, water likes to expand. All of these channels were cut out, or all of Yeah, the channels were cut out so that the islands remained, right? An island is something that remains from the erosion. Sometimes it can be deposited, but most cases, big islands. And now look at this. The channel, you can follow it right into salt scablands. It goes right up here. The skull of Australia is a shallow cataract formation. Look at here. The river channel went right through here. And that lines up with drumlins, right? These are drumlins, right? You guys know about laminar flow? If you don't, you should Google it. And what forms perpendicular to laminar flow? Ripples, exactly perpendicular. Okay. This is all drumlins. All of these parallel stream or parallel formations were from parallel water currents, which is the exact physical principle of laminar flow, is that within a sheet water flow, there's going to be a channeling force of water. That's the laminar flow. It's what erodes the channels in particular. And that's also what erodes and leaves behind the drumlins. Okay, that was a slight overview. Now we're going back. We already covered that spot. Pugent. This guy reminds me of the Puget Sound, or the also the what's that? The Vancouver Island. Yeah, Puget Sound and Vancouver Island. And now check this out. Parallel rivers are a feature of laminar flow. You already know. Let's keep going up the coastline. All of these are channeled out as well and are left behind kind of like mesas. That's why they're incredibly streamlined. I'll show you some really streamlined ones. Or this guy's nice too. These are streamlined. Like, look at this guy. And then even within it, you get parallel path features. This is a really great spot of channels, right? So clearly an ocean current washed through here so fast that it streamlined out all of these reefs. Okay, and that's the texture of the reefs. In a lot of places you find channels. If you ever go diving anywhere tropical and you're diving a reef, I'm going to let you know right now you're going to find underwater river channels, and that's what you're going to be swimming in. And they can have overhangs and underwater bridges and all sorts of cool things. Now this is an amazing scablands, right? So scablands is a vague term for water erosion of the catastrophic sort, and it creates all these scabs or scours, and that's from the undulating force and the focusing force of water and the turbulence of water as well. So you got all of that making chaotic erosive forces, and together they form little scabs, and that's why they kind of look like plunge pools. They can bounce like plunge pools, and they're connected with river channels, right? Scablands. Also, I really like the accretion ridge of this area. You know how an accretion ridge is formed? That's from a water current sweeping around here and pushing up sediment and depositing sediment. So this is an accretion ridge is a very vast feature that indicates sheet water flow. Or not sheet water, or just a fast ocean current, right? Which technically I guess you could say. But what I really like about this is we find lines of scabs inside and in between the accretion ridges. That's saying exactly that the ocean current that made the accretion ridges, no one's going to dispute that the ocean current made these accretion ridges, but it's directly saying that ocean current that made these ridges also made these scabs and scours. So then you just keep going up inland, and then you see, wow, it used to be way worse. This is on the scale of Washington. Okay. More accretion ridges. These are alluvial fans. Massive deposits. A lot of rivers in here. This is kind of like a bay-like area. And then we start getting parallel path features again. These you would call drumlins. Scabs in between. This one's got 2 exclamation marks. It must be good. Oh yeah, it's really good. So check this out. You've got the current that washed offshore, goes into the shallow cataract formation, which is the cross section of a channel. Okay, put that in your notes. Then you've got these little rivers going offshore. These little ravines were much later in our, on a tenth of the scale, or much less than a tenth of the scale. This is the modern scale, which is like 100 times less than this being a massively wide river channel. But this is where it gets really cool, is you go here and you find this is another smaller feature, and this is another smaller feature, and this one's the same, and this one's the same, and that's how we're able to understand these coastlines, and this feature is on every coastline in the world. So when you find these nice edges like this, a lot of times they can be because they were made from their cross sections of river channels. That's what they are. Now we're going to go back to the Monterey Canyon. Now that we understand that, we see that this was the width of the river channel that went offshore. .7 miles. And it was also flowing off of here, just like this was flowing off of here. This is all the ocean. Same thing, same thing. Same, but different. Because this has a big fat marine canyon that makes the Grand Canyon look like it's on Ozempic. So, and this, of course, was all formed by debris flow. So this is the channel. This is the channel, and even to here and off of here, indicating water was, well, actually not just the channel, the cross section of the channel, which then makes us understand that the water flowed all the way and completely over these mountains. And they're very shallow and they're worn down, almost to terraces in many places. But these are worn down into sloping, rolling hills, and some areas more terraced than others. Now you want to know about terraces. A great spot to understand terraces is when you look at the marine terraces, like for example this here, right? This was all flattened out. This is incredibly flat because of the ocean current. The ocean current flattened this out. That's how terraces formed, and it's also rutted out. Okay, 2 features. Here we see, this is where this is the San Francisco Bay. You've got this being a massive valley. A spillway through here, went through the mountains here, also dissected it through here, and through here, and through here, and flowed out through here. And that's why you get all these scarped edges here. Now, the main feature of the San Francisco Bay is a direction kind of going like this. Now, that has a lot to do with the tectonics. And this is all, there's faults through here. So that's going to have to do with it as well. But it also indicates a current that comes down through here. And this is a major feature of this side of the continent. So imagine this being a rut, and this being a rut, and then this also being a rut. And that lines up perfectly with Carrizo Plain, which is a nice salt scablands area. Basically a plunge pool, and a plunge pool type scab there. at the base of this valley here. And also, to really support that, the parallel, if those were parallel ruts I just showed you, well, these are parallel valleys, or canyons, and they're stupid large and incredibly tall. And they're all right next to each other. You know, this being a massive channel here. And then you've got another channel cross-secting it. Here's another channel going the same way. So nobody talks about Oregon's erosion, but everyone's all talking about, you know, Washington. But Washington isn't half as interesting as Oregon. And I don't think they like to mention it because it's just a little too salty. Looking at all of these ravines and not seeing any moraines, not like you see massive moraines anywhere, but instead of expecting moraines, you're just met with constant salt scablands. And then you find, you know, large ripples and things of that nature. All right, let's go back to Australia. Got a little sidetracked. Look at this guy here. Kind of like the massive ruts on California. Right, this would be the rut going through here. This was preserved. This also, right? You can say I'm wrong, but I don't know. It looks like it to me. And then you go on top of these features and then cross-secting it, right? Just like Oregon, you've got major channels going one way and then much smaller channels crossing it, almost at a 45. And then you've got tons of current ruts on this landscape, also cross-secting each other at 90-degree angles, making squares. Yeah. This is also kind of like the Monterey Bay. You've got the channel in the middle, the two angles going off of it, this one as well. And then you kind of get blurred lines between it being an expansion bar, right? Because now this is looking like an expansion bar. But then you go backwards and see, oh no, this was the channel, because you can see the channel's bank all the way through here, right? By the elevation. So this really was the channel. The channel was through here and through here. All this was underwater. This was the cross section of the channel. It decreased. As it decreased, it then made this smaller feature here, and then this became land. And you get a streamlined little mound there. A lot of channeling going on. I'd run out of breath if I mentioned all the channels and all their streamlined features, but we're going to see how far we can go. GC stands for Grand Canyon, and this is like the Grand Canyon because it's got a bunch of terraces, cliff and terrace step sequences. These lines here, you can count them, give us exact information. Let's see with this spot here. You know, a nice pointed ravine there. Okay, this is also like the Grand Canyon. This is also like, you know, Mesa territory. Now, how were the mesas left behind? Everything else was eroded away, and only the mesas left behind. And when we see it on the coastline, it's just so perfect, because it's showing us exactly how mesas formed. The answer is right here. Blue ocean water. Actually, it was probably brown from all of the sediment it was carrying under chaotic conditions, but you get the gist. And that's why a lot of mesas around the world, like in India, has some really nice ones. You can find a lot of parallel, straight features. Right, you guys are starting to see it. I know it. If you listen and look, expansion bar, current ruts, Another mont. You got the scab, or the channel cross section. 2 rivers here, nice and straight, offshore. And then look at all this sand. It's literally preserving that current. Right, the ocean current in this area is very small because it's in a bay, right? So if there's a big ocean current washing around here, bays are always the most calm. And this very calm bay still preserves underwater drumlins that indicate the formation of coves. Thank you for your time. Now check out this. Nice terraces. Are we in Montana? Glacial Lake Missoula. Where are ya? P. I don't know what P means. I'd assume potholes, but not seeing any of those. Anyways, you see this nice cliff edge here with a lot of ravines cutting across it. Central River. Really nice streamline. Oh man, that's a nice streamline feature. Then you come through here real straight. Nobody's going to debate that this was carved out by a current. And then it comes through here, and this is all land. And it's only got a narrow channel on the way out. How bizarre. But let's take a closer look at this island, which if the ocean wasn't here, this is not a river, this is the ocean of a bay. If this bay water wasn't here, and this was in the desert of Australia, you would call that a mesa. So let's look at this mesa. Really nice and flat, very clean edges. Pointed yet somewhat rounded. Big pointed features. And then you look at this, this is also streamlined out by a water current within this much larger channel. You can measure, I'll measure the channel. I mean, you could measure it from here to here, here to here, or here to here. But I'm just going to measure, I think a good measurement would be, I think that's a nice one. 6.2 miles. Nice little channel. Not bad. Let's check out this spot. Yep. It's got nice ravines in it. These little mesas left behind. Ooh, what was that? Oh my gosh. I've never seen this before. Fantastic. Do you have any idea what this means? You see, this was only able to grow because there was dirt here. These are patches of dirt on top of some sort of rock. This is exactly what we find in Oregon, Washington, Montana, Alaska, Canada, California, Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, Africa, Australia. All right, so we got drumlins. Get us a nice teardrop scour. Really like that. Nice little U-shaped and V-shaped cataracts right next to each other, indicating that U-shaped and V-shapes, they're just like brothers. They come from the same litter. Ooh, gosh, that's some nice erosion right there. You could put that in a picture frame. Man. Ooh, this is like the Grand Canyon. We're in the Grand Canyon. All of these streamlined, streamlined, streamlined. Fantastic. So good. So we got the drumlins coming through here. This means the drumlins are also coming straight through here, leading right into this river channel. 8.5, or not bad. Look right over here. Here's the drumlins. Cross-secting ripples, just like you'd expect if you were studying fluid dynamics and you were looking at it form or flow over land. And then we've got ravines that are perfectly straight and perfectly parallel, like little teeth in this cataract. Super cool. We go over here, the drumlins are also flowing off of here. There's no U-shaped cataract here, but from the drumlins right here, we still get an indication that water flowed right across it and right over it. It's only where they're focused really nicely is where we find good cataract cross sections. Here's more parallel. These are all really nice drumlins. Really, really nice drumlins. Salt scablands, right? This is because these drumlins were formed by the ocean. Okay, this looks like Africa. And we go back and we're following it. And we follow it right into a channel. Hits the coastline. Pretty cool. Let's check out this spot. You know, river channels coming through here. And right through here. You know, it's river channels that make islands. The islands are cut away from the mainland. And that's what mounds are. Mounds are also cut away from the mainland. That's why they're all shaped like they're little deltas. I think there's something cool on here, it looks like. Yes. Yes, that is cool. This is also a good spot for mounds. Nice big mounds. A little bit salty. Plus drumlins next to scablands, scabland drumlins. Go right into much bigger non-scabland drumlins, showing that they're interconnected. So from all these drumlins, we get a current doing this. And then we go here, we see these shallow cataracts that also indicate that water did this. And we zoom in. The drumlins are lining up directly with this river channel. And this is basically a cataract ridge that was disconnected. So when you go to if you go to Washington or wherever and you see a nice cataract, you're gonna find a ridge that survived. And that's Cataract Ridge. And then we go to this spot, which is just too good. So same feature here, but now we have perpendicular features, which are from undulating ripples. So you got the scours, the channel, the undulating ripple formations. And you even get underwater ripples here. Let's just get an idea of these guys. I wonder what these are, how thick they are. And the length, 1/10 of a mile. So they're pretty big if you were to stand next to them. But on satellite imagery, they're not that impressive. Not like these guys. With a wavelength of, 9, almost 0.9 miles. And then now we get the much bigger channels. And we even get a pointed expansion bar at the front. Little scab lakes with a square one. The Yucatan, huh? Oh yeah, it is like the Yucatan. So, you know what I'm referring to is the mystery of why there's a ring of cenotes on the Yucatan Peninsula. And here we find a ring of scours. Or not necessarily a ring, but a line of them. Same thing. That's how they formed. It's a little bit of insight. Scabs, pushed sediment lobes. All these are sediment lobes pushed by the water current. This one's supposed to be like Carolina bays because it's nice and circular, but it's still a scour from the water current. That's why they're all fitting into these river channels so well. Nothing to do with ice boulders. Really nice lakes inside of these accretion ridges, right? Because they're scoured out. Carolina bays, another great example. Here they've got a little bit more directional. Got a primary straight edge, almost forming a tail. This one's got a little bit more of a tail. This one's got like a double tail, kind of looks like sunglasses. And then they're fitting in inside these accretion ridges. And they're heavily associated with accretion ridges too. If you look at them on LiDAR, whether you're looking at the Carolina bays or any other spot that has them, they're heavily correlated with accretion ridges. The Rock Wave, you guys know about this spot? It's pretty famous. Doesn't look very good, but it's basically like a nice rounded cataract feature right next to a big channel with some scabs. These are kind of like potholes, but they're actually scours from the undulating force of a focused water current. That's how you get lines of scabs. But this has to be one of the best locations for understanding scablands. Right, how else do you get these little lines? They all fit into channels. Ever heard of laminar flow? It will solve all of your erosional mysteries. Yeah. Unless it has to do with turbulence. In that case, it's the exact opposite of laminar flow. So, yeah. Laminar flow and turbulence, because you wouldn't really get the undulating turbulence, right? Helps that. All right, we're making it around the coastline. Pushed sediments. Drumlin-like. We're going around the coastline. Ooh, we find nice mounds. Drumlins going almost straight offshore here. Now they're kind of sweeping around. Massive pushed sediment lobes right along the marine cliff. I wonder if the water channel carved the cliff like a river's bank. That'd be crazy. Well, it's in line with the drumlins, right? You can see the drumlin paths. You can see the path feature here. So I guess there's that indication of it. Plus there's a center line rut. Let's ponder that as we move up to this location. Here we see the marine cliff begin again. But now look at these sediment lobes. They're pointing this way. Very confusing stuff. It is a cliff though. How it formed, it's very hard to say. But when we look here, we find nice straight-lined ruts in between accretion ridges, which indicates, a current running cross shore. So there's that. Drumlins with nice tails, a lot of drumlins can have tails like this. Don't really find them in Canada as much, but you can find a few. But this is from slower. You get a little bit of meander in the drumlin. If you're talking about a real high-speed drumlin, right? Okay, so here's the central channel. Ooh, gosh, that's nice. And look at this channel. In the center of the channel, pushed sediment lobes, pushed forward by the water's current. Nice little salt scab. Okay, so if you actually look closely, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could maybe say 6, definitely say 7 through here. And this terrain is completely full of drumlins with a little bit of meander to them. So there's that. So laminar flow. Then you get into a little bit of a rutted out terrain, current ruts. That's why these are kind of parallel across. All right, let's go. We've already checked out this spot. You already know how that forms and how this forms. And you can indicate the direction of this for yourself. But you also see the, features along the coast. Good example of trails of scabs. Right, they got a little curve to it. So imagine the sheet water flow going forward, slightly curving. All right, corrugated, let's see. Ah, yes, it is corrugated. All these little lakes. If you're in a place of a land of 1,000 lakes, that's 1,000 scabs and 1,000 scours. Check this out. Follow the trail of scabs and scours. Right into that bigger plunge pool, right? So you can see things. That's an interesting. Look at this. So this island has been completely excavated by a channel. That's a sweet spot right there. You can't do that with a. And then look at this. Really nice expansion bar right off of this guy. Scab or scarp edge is really wide here. The channel kind of tapers. We see channel cross sections. This is a big old channel right here. It's a channel. Subscribe to my channel if you think that is a channel. Okay, that's the video.